Hello, my nightlights. Before we begin, I want you to know something. This book wasn't written when I was whole. It wasn't written because I was inspired. It was written because I was hurting, and I thought I was broken. And this was the only way I knew how to stay. What you're about to hear isn't a story meant to impress. It's a story I built to breathe. And if you're here because you feel a little lost too, you're not alone. Let's take this slowly, together. This is a book that I call Shattered Reflections. It's going to be part of a series, and this one itself is called Wake. This story follows Lyra, a woman navigating the wreckage of heartbreak, trauma, and self-forgiveness, as she awakens in a haunting realm known as the Underland. There, the shadows are shaped by memory, the monsters speak in familiar voices, and healing requires more than just survival. Before you begin, please note, this book explores themes that may be emotionally triggering for some readers. Topics include depression, emotional abuse, childhood trauma, sexual trauma, grief, self-harm, and toxic relationships. While these subjects are handled with care and purpose, reader discretion is strongly advised. This is a story about trauma, but more importantly, it's a story about healing, about reclaiming your voice, and about learning to love yourself even after being shattered. Lyra's journey is just beginning. This book is the first in a series that will dive deeper into her world and the many reflections of pain and power that live within it. If you find yourself needing a break, please take it. If you find yourself needing support, reach out. And if you see yourself in these pages, know that you are not broken. You are becoming. Thank you for being here. Chapter 1. The night clung to Lyra like a second skin, heavy and suffocating. The air in her apartment was thick with stillness, broken only by the rhythmic hum of the ceiling fan overhead. She lay curled on the couch, staring at the glow of her phone screen, the notification long since silenced. She wasn't expecting anyone to reach out. Not anymore. The weight in her chest had settled in like an old friend, one she had both resented and relied upon. It was easier to feel nothing at all than to unravel the tangled mess of emotions waiting beneath the surface. Grief, heartbreak, loneliness. It had all mixed together in an unbearable haze, pressing down on her until breathing itself felt like a chore. She let her phone slip from her fingers, allowing it to land upon the carpeted floor with a soft thud. Her gaze wandered to the window, where the night sky stretched endlessly, a black void speckled with distant stars. It should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like it was swallowing her whole. She used to dream of something more, something bigger than the small life she had built around herself. But dreams had a cruel way of twisting into nightmares. The sharp ring of her alarm startled her out of her daze. Another morning, another day of forcing herself through the motions. Lyra dragged herself out of bed and into the shower, letting the scalding water burn away the remnants of sleep. She dressed quickly, black slacks, a fitted blouse, and her long red hair tousled into a messy ponytail, and a practiced mask of composure, before grabbing her bag and heading out the door. Work at the publishing house was relentless. Manuscripts piled on her desk like an ever-growing mountain. Emails flooded her inbox before she could clear the last batch, and the phone never stopped ringing. She loved books. At least she used to. But now reading felt more like an obligation than an escape. Deadlines loomed over her, editors hounded her, and authors expected miracles from her limited hours in the day. "Lyra, did you get the notes back on the Larson manuscript?" her boss Margaret called from across the office. Lyra pinched the bridge of her nose, forcing a smile as she turned to face her. "Almost done. I'll have them over by lunch." Margaret gave a curt nod and disappeared into her office. No words of encouragement, no acknowledgement of the sheer amount of work already on Lyra's plate. Just another expectation, another task to juggle. Her phone buzzed on her desk. A message from her mother. "Are you coming to dinner this weekend? It's been too long." Lyra stared at the text, guilt gnawing at the edges of her exhaustion. She hadn't been home in months, always dodging invitations, always too drained to play the role of the perfect daughter. Her mother meant well, she guesses, but family dinner always felt like interrogations. Why was she still single? Was she happy? Was she eating enough? Did she need any help? Questions she had no answers to, and questions that made the weight in her chest even heavier. A second message followed. "You know your father worries about you." She sighed, shoving her phone into the drawer. She didn't have the energy to respond. Not now. Just as she was about to get back to work, a blur of vibrant colors burst into her peripheral vision. "Lyra!" Nyx's voice was unmistakable. Loud, wild, and full of untamed energy. Her best friend plopped down onto Lyra's desk, swinging her legs like she owned the place. "You look like death. We need to fix that." Lyra sighed, running a hand over her face. "Nyx, I'm working." Yeah, well, you're always working, and you're always miserable." Nyx rolled her eyes and leaned in. "Please, just come out with me tonight, just for a drink, or 5. Lyra shook her head. "I'm exhausted." "And that's why you need to come. When was the last time you did something fun? Something reckless and something that didn't involve drowning in work or existential dread?" Lyra hesitated and Nyx seized the moment. "No excuses. I'll be at your place at 8. Wear something that doesn't scream, 'I gave up on life.'" With a wink, Nyx hopped off the desk and disappeared down the hall, leaving Lyra staring after her. The rest of the day passed in a blur of meetings, edits, and coffee refills that did nothing to shake the fog from her mind. By the time she clocked out, the sun had already begun to set, casting long shadows across the city streets. She used to love the quiet. Now it only reminded her of what she had lost. Dragging herself to her feet, she wandered into the bathroom, avoiding her blue-eyed reflection in the mirror as she turned on the faucet. The cold water sent a jolt through her fingers, grounding her for just a moment. Maybe if she stayed awake, she could outrun the thoughts clawing at the edges of her mind. Maybe if she kept moving, she wouldn't have to face the inevitable. But exhaustion won in the end. It always did. When she finally collapsed into the bed, she didn't bother pulling the covers over herself. She just stared at the ceiling, the weight in her chest sinking deeper, dragging her down until the darkness swallowed her whole. And when she woke, the world was no longer the same. 1 month earlier, the air was thick with the scent of roses and candle wax. The soft flicker of candlelight cast warm shadows across the apartment walls. The dining table was set. White plates, crystal glasses, a bottle of red wine breathing beside a perfectly plated meal. Lyra had spent hours preparing, making sure every detail was perfect, just as she had done for every anniversary before this one. But this wasn't just any anniversary. It was their 10th. A decade of love, of memories, of building a life together. A milestone that means forever. The day had started like any other. Lyra woke before dawn, dragging herself through the motions of another busy morning at the publishing house. Manuscripts would fill her inbox, deadlines would loom over her, and coffee would be her only saving grace. She barely had time to breathe between meetings, as her desk piled high with projects waiting for her attention. Lyra stood at 5'5", her golden tan skin glowing under the harsh office lights. Her fiery red hair was tied back in a loose bun, but stray curls fell around her freckled face. Her striking blue eyes were sharp with exhaustion, yet still held a spark of determination as she powered through the chaos of the workday. "Lyra!" Margaret's sharp voice cut through the office noise. "I need the final edits on the Reynolds manuscript by the end of the day." Lyra forced a smile, suppressing the sigh that threatened to escape. "Of course, I'll have them done right away, Margaret." As the hours crawled by, she found herself glancing at the clock, anticipation curling in her chest. Tonight was going to be special. Damon had always made their anniversaries meaningful, and she wanted to do the same for him. She had planned every detail meticulously. His favorite homemade meal, a slideshow of their best memories together, and a heartfelt letter about their future. She was going to tell him she wanted to start looking for a house, to build something even bigger than what they had. Maybe even talk about marriage, something they'd always dance around, but never fully decided on. At lunchtime, she met with Nix and a few other friends at their usual cafe. Nix, ever the free spirit, leaned across the table with a teasing grin. "So, any big plans tonight?" Lyra smirked, stirring her iced coffee. "Dinner, wine, maybe a walk down memory lane. 10 years is an awfully long time." "Gods, I can't even imagine being with someone that long," Nix groaned dramatically. "You're practically an old married couple." "I mean, we kinda are," Lyra admitted with a chuckle. "But in a good way. Damon and I, we just work." Well, I hope he got you something amazing," one of their friends named Rachel chimed in. 10 years is deserving of diamonds or at least a trip to Paris. Lyra laughed, shaking her head. "Honestly, I just want a quiet night together. That's all." The afternoon flew by, and before she knew it, she was home, lighting candles, plating the meal, and fixing her hair and makeup. She smoothed the fabric of her dress, the deep burgundy silk flowing like wine against her skin. She wanted tonight to be perfect. She imagined Damon's green eyes lighting up when he walked in, his broad-shouldered frame relaxing as he took in the scene that she had created for them. The clock on the wall ticked past 7, then 7:30, then 8. She sat at the table, the candle flickering, the food growing cold. He was never this late. Her fingers tapped anxiously against the stem of her wine glass as doubt began to curl inside of her. She reached for her phone just as the front door flew open. Damon stepped inside, his tall frame tense, his chiseled features unreadable. Lyra's heart lurched at the sight of him. Relief, then unease. Something was wrong. "You're late," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. He didn't answer right away. He ran a hand through his brown hair, avoiding her eyes as he stepped further into the room. "Lyra, we need to talk." She knew. Before he even said the words, she knew. "No." The whisper escaped her lips before she could stop it. Her fingers tightened around the fabric of her dress as the world began to tilt. Damon exhaled, finally meeting her gaze, And in that moment, she saw everything. The guilt, the hesitation, the finality. I'm leaving. The words hit her like a physical blow. The air was suddenly too thick, too heavy. What? I've met someone. I've been seeing her for a while now. His voice was quiet, but there was still no hesitation in his words. No faltering. Lyra stared at him, her mind rejecting the truth. You're joking. I'm not. I didn't want to hurt you. You didn't want to hurt me? The disbelief in her voice rose into something sharper, something raw. You've been lying to me, cheating on me, and you say you didn't want to hurt me? Damon's jaw tightened. I never meant for it to happen like this. I'm not happy, Lyra. I haven't been for a long time. A cold laugh bubbled up inside of her throat, bitter and broken. And you think I have been? You think this life that we built together was just for you? He didn't answer. The silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. Who is she? Lyra forced herself to ask, even though she wasn't sure she even wanted the answer. Damon hesitated. Her name is Celeste. Celeste. A name she didn't know. A name that now meant the destruction of everything she had built. Her chest tightened, her vision blurred, and the candles flickered wildly as if the universe itself was mocking her. She wanted to scream, to break something, to beg him to stay, but she did none of those things. Instead, she straightened her spine, swallowing down the pain threatening to consume her whole. Get out, she said, her voice eerily calm. Lyra, I said get out. Damon sighed, running a hand down his face, and then, without another word, he turned and walked out the door, leaving behind the shattered remains of their perfect life. Lyra stood there, motionless, as the clock struck 9. The food was cold, the wine untouched, the candles burned down to nothing but melted wax and broken promises. And for the first time in 10 years, she was alone. The loneliness was unbearable, but what broke her further was the next betrayal. The following morning, she reached out to Rachel, seeking comfort, but the response was colder than she had expected. Lyra, I don't know what you want me to say. Damon wasn't happy. Maybe if you had just been different, he wouldn't have left. The words cut deeper than any blade. A close friend, someone she had trusted, had abandoned her too. She wasn't just losing Damon. She was losing everything.